Okay, I would very much like to welcome everybody to this online conference, online webinar with the title Autonomous Ship Reality. Now it's the second day. Yesterday we had a very nice set of presentations, very nice discussion, very interesting questions from our audience. So I would like to urge all attendees to issue and publish their questions on the Q&A part of the chat so that we can have a very interesting discussions later on. Today, I see that the presenters, we have a strong representation from the industrial part. Still we have companies, very big companies and companies that are very prone to research also. So we are talking about companies that are trying to keep at the edge of technology, especially and also in terms of this kind of disciplines like autonomous ships or autonomous onboard operations, levels of automation goes on. So I don't want to lose any more time in the sense that we are very interested and very eager to hear our presenters and what they have and what they will present to us. So as I see, first of all, I would like to mention that the organizer of this conference is the BS Group. I would also like to extend special thanks to this session sponsor, Marinet, and Mashworld for a second day. Mashworld news team is for the second day the media support of the event. So thank you, BS, thank you, Marinet, thank you, Mashworld News, and let's get the show running. I see that one good friend of mine, Fotis Economou, will begin with his presentation. The title is Reaching Autonomous Control in Vessel Operation, Conditional Automation Level 3. Fotis, are you with us? Can you switch on your camera? I see that we have some technical problems. So I guess that in order to gain some time, and we will go back to Fotis, we can continue with the presenter from Marinet, from our sponsor of the second day. The name is Alexander Pinsky, and the title is Practical Experience of Autonomous Navigation in Commercial Operation. Alexander is with us. Hello, Alexander. Very nice to see somebody else also here with me. Can you please share your presentation? And in the meantime,
good afternoon, Nikolaos.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, dear colleagues and distinguished speakers. I would like to ask our administrators to launch a short video, and after this video I will during 10 minutes highlight some specific moments regarding our experience of commercial operation.
Thank you. So until the administrator launch and the organizers launch this video, let me just say that you are an information technologist, chairman of the supervisory board of the industry association Marinet, chairman of the board of trustees of the Foundation of the National Technology Initiative, director of a Navigation Promotion Center Marinet, RUT, and development manager of STEER. Also in 2019, you were elected as a chairman of the board of trustees of the Foundation of Support of the Projects of the National Technology Initiative. And I would say that in your talk, you will, deal and you will touch upon developments that are presented by various mass trials and the sharing of information on this practical experience. You find it extremely important for harmonization of approaches, smooth and rapid implementation of the new technologies in the world maritime fleet. So you will also share with us both technical and legal aspects of practical mass use based on the trial project involving three actual merchant ships, the general cargo Pola Anfisa, the tanker Mikhail Ulyanov, and the barge Arabojaya, as well as the first results of the mass use within the national experiment started in your country in 2021. I can start the video. So I will start the video.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
In 2021, Russia started wide operations of maritime autonomous ships. Autonomous shipping, that is, automatic and remote control of ships without continuous presence of crew on board, is a key technology to increase the safety of shipping and efficiency of maritime transport. In 2019, 3 major Russian shipping companies, together with technology companies, universities, and Russian Maritime Register of Shipping, under the aegis of MARINET, started the world's largest trail project on autonomous navigation in real conditions. The project aimed to create technical and legal conditions for wide practical operations of maritime autonomous ships to start in 2021. A cross-functional suite of technical solutions, integrating all current systems, enables an upgrade of any ship to the level of autonomous one. The autonomous navigation system provides integration of all navigation data, ship navigation along the route assigned, detection of navigation hazards, maneuver calculations, and commands to maneuver. The remote control station allows the remote operator to continuously monitor the ship, interact with all systems of the ship, switch to remote control mode, have radio communications with other ships, maintain audio and visual connection with a crew on board. Optical surveillance and analysis system provides in real-time mode continuous surveillance around the vessel, stitching, digital stabilization, and image enhancement, automatic detection and recognition of various objects around the ship, transfer of machine reading data about them, and transmission of video images to the remote control station and the ship bridge. Technical solutions, as well as national regulations of autonomous ships in Russia, are based on the principle of full functional equivalence. This principle implies that those functions which, in accordance with the current regulations, should be performed by the crew on board, are accurately fulfilled in autonomous mode. Due to that, the new technology can be used within the frameworks of the existing international conventions, adjusting to them at the level of national regulation. Trial operations of autonomous navigation systems have been enforced at the ships since September 2020 at real commercial operations in various geographical regions. The developed technical suite is approved by the International Classification Society Russian Maritime Register of Shipping and is allowed to be used on the ships under the supervision of the register. Within the framework of the national experiment, since 2021, the equipment of commercial ships flying the flag of Russia has started. The 2 largest Russian rail vehicle carriers, Marshal Rokossovsky and General Chernikovsky, will become the first such vessels with an official autonomy class. These are 2 dual-fuel sister ships with 20,000 gross tonnage, 200 meters of length overall, and 27 meters of extreme beam. The ships are operating in the Baltic Sea on Ust-Luga, Baltijsk Line. The ARC-4 class of ice reinforcement allows year-round operation of the line without icebreaker support. Their mass category enables autonomous navigation via remote control, with manual control override capability when moving at sea, and manual control with the use of A navigation systems for decision support when moving in restricted navigation areas and at the entrance to the port. Also, the ships are equipped with unattended machinery spaces certified by RS on AUT1 notation that allows operation without the continuous presence of maintenance personnel in the engine rooms and the central control room. In Russia, A navigation technologies are used not only at these and other sea-going vessels contracted by the ship owners within the national experiment. Now, the technologies are expanding to inland waterway ships. In October 2022, the trials of A navigation systems on board Prokopy Drachov river tug were successfully completed in Siberia. Following those trials, wide implementation of river autonomous electric vessels in Moscow is introduced, with more than 20 such ships to take the routes in the near future. The extensive use of autonomous ships in Russia creates a unique experience for the implementation of this technology all over the world. Join us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
colleagues.
Very interesting,
So,
very interesting video, Alexander. So the floor is still yours.
I will share my presentation. Hope you see it well. So, a few moments which I'd like to highlight following up this video. First of all, what we have as a methodology principle ground for our both technology and regulation developments. We name it as a complete functional equivalence principle. That means that we have functions which are currently to be fulfilled by human on board. And we want to do absolutely the same with the same level of safety and with the same volume of functions by automations described in a very functional approach by STCW, and use them as a technical requirements for our systems. On another, it allows us on one hand to be compliant with the current international regulation as is. And on another hand, it allows autonomous ships coexist with the traditional ones, because if you meet such an autonomous ship following this complete functional equivalence principle, you cannot find that it is different in behavior, in interacting with other vessels as a traditional vessel. So based on this approach, we have developed the national regulation for autonomous navigation. Currently, Russia is the only country where autonomous ships are allowed to use in commercial operation. We have several documents, but in general, I would like to highlight 2 points. First of all, we introduced terms like external crew and responsible persons for operation into the legislation. It is important because starting from UNCLOS and to other IMO and then to IMO conventions, there is a very strict, very clear relation that a ship owner is liable and responsible for ship operation and supervision, and address this responsibility to the crew on board. So for autonomous vessels, we need to introduce external crew, such as remote operator, remote masters, etc. And this is a very important point to bring the autonomous ships into the framework of the current maritime law. The second point, we need to make some additional interpretations, like, for example, interpretations of call regs. In 2021, Russian Maritime Administration issued a recommendation on call regs application in computer system and autonomous vessels to make their provisions in more mathematical, algorithmical way. So such interpretation we did for other documents where it is required, and now we have national regulation, and this national regulation seems to be very close to the future international regulation. I'm actually active participant of all working groups of the International Maritime Organization on MAS, and can say that the same functional approach and equivalence approach is used for the new MAS code development. Coming to the technical point of view, we actively utilize the existing systems, mandatory systems. Here you see they are marked gray, and non-mandatory but already widely used systems like control system for unattended machinery spaces, or ship maneuvering systems like dynamic position and trajectory following. The only difference that we send commands to these systems not from human, but from automatic autonomous navigation system or from the remote control station. So actually, we have only 3 new systems, and using these systems in various compositions, we can upgrade any existing vessel, retrofit vessel, to the autonomous one. These are autonomous navigation system, optical surveillance systems, and remote control station. Autonomous navigation system is an equivalent of officer on the bridge. So it integrates the same as currently officer does in his mines. It integrates all the data, navigational data from devices, from charts, from optical system. It can automatically detect, identify hazards, and then to calculate and implement. My colleagues, I hear some noise. Yep. And then it maneuver in accordance with this recommendation by Colrex to avoid these dangers. Now, I think that this is the most mature, the most advanced autonomous navigation system in the world, because we utilized more than 2 years of practical experience 10 masters working shoulder to shoulder with autonomous navigation in real commercial voyages, several hundred voyages, all this utilized in the autonomous navigation system. Optical surveillance and analysis system is the equivalent of human eyes. Since we are following complete functional equivalent principle and all conventions prescribed visual observation, we have several optical systems. For different conditions, we use different systems. Here you see pictures of optical system for open seas and Arctic region. Optical surveillance systems can recognize automatically vessels and objects around with parameters like distance, course, etc., and send it in machine reading form to the autonomous navigation system and as a picture to the remote control station. Unfortunately, in this presentation, I show only pictures, but you can find videos of these trial voyages in YouTube and internet. So remote control station, again, is an equivalent of bridge, but outside the vessel. So it has a semisphere of screens for visual observation, rotating 360 degrees, access to all navigation, a system, technical control system, communication on board, radio communication with other vessels, and tools to control, maneuver, to manage navigation of the vessel. Here you see that remote operator works like a helmsman, executing commands by master. And in general, I would like to highlight that we do not intend to make 100% autonomous vessel. We believe that for a particular situation, we need to use the best mode of control. For example, for standard routine situations, we use automatic mode because computer is much better rather than human in standard situations. For non-standard situation, we use human control, either on board or remote control. So we are talking about symbiosis of modes of control for autonomous vessels to bring the best safety, the highest level of safety. So in 2021, till the beginning of 2022, we completed this trial project, 3 different vessels in different geographies and different conditions. They used these autonomous systems under the by the crew on board. All the systems got approval based on the experience by the classification society. And I would add that more than a year, we are using mostly automatic control. So remote control used only first few months. We had the problem in control, but our owners are interested in remote control because it is just moving human factor from on board to the shore. And they are mostly interested in autonomous navigation system as it is, with automatic control, either as a smart autopilot when we have people on board, or decision support system when we have manual control, or autonomous navigation for high seas. Based on this trial project, we implemented the national experiment. Under this experiment, any shipping company can equip any ship under the Russian flag with autonomous navigation system and use them in commercial operation. The duration of the experiment is till 2025, when we expect that mass code by the IMO will be approved firstly as non-mandatory instrument and from 2028 as a mandatory code. The flagships of this experiment are definitely these 2 Russian largest railway carriers, ferries. They will be the first vessels with official category of mass. So they will obtain class notation, class category of mass, which will allow us to use autonomous navigation under remote supervision in high seas, and manual control in port waters in restricted areas with autonomous navigation system as a decision support systems. And finally, I'll also add that in September last year, we have approved, Ministry of Russia approved advanced training programs for mass personnel, for seafarers working on mass. We have developed several programs. Here you see one of example of these programs. On each slide you see also name of submissions to the IMO. So everything what we did starting from 2019 till now, we are reporting to the IMO. There are tens of our submissions to the IMO with details of our regulation, technology, results of trials, results of experiment. And also, we have developed for this not only programs but also simulators. And by the way, in Philippine Expo a few weeks ago, we presented VR simulators, which are completely working for both traditional STCW training and for autonomous navigation training as well. Starting from this year, we will prepare the first groups of seafarers which will work on our autonomous vessels already contracted and used under the national experiment. Here, everything from my side. I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alexander. Thank you very much, both for the interesting video and for your talk. If I understand, these three vessels, they are real vessels that they are operating in an autonomous. They are now operating, or they will be operated in an autonomous level.
Three vessels, I understand you mentioned Ulyanov, Polanfisa, and Rabochia. These vessels were operated during the trial project in 2020, 21, 22. Now we have additional vessels already contracted as a part of national experiment. So we are talking about vessels which operated, these three vessels operated almost 2 years already with use of autonomous navigation systems. And now we have additional vessels. We have several shipping companies, ship owners contracted these autonomous navigation systems for equipment of their vessels. And as I said, 2 new vessels, Marshal Rokossovsky and General Chernyakhovsky railway ferries, they will obtain the official mass category in a few months, I believe. Currently, Register of Shipping to provide tests and final certification of the systems for operation.
And when you mean systems and autonomous navigations, you mean remotely monitored and supervised by a remote control center, fully autonomous, remotely controlled? Which level of automation you are talking about?
As I said, we have both fully autonomous navigation system for pure automatic control. We have remote control station. As I said, we are talking about combination of modes. For high seas, we are using automatic. For standard situation, we are using automatic control. For non-standard situation like port entrance, we use human control, for example, with a remote control station. Again, I would not tell about levels of automation. Even in the International Maritime Organization, we are now more and more say that level of automation were used only for regulatory scoping exercise. And for mass code and probably for further regulation, we will talk about modes of operation. So we say that we can provide any mode of operation, automatic, remote, and manual, depending on situation. Probably 80-90% of the voyage in high seas and standard situation, the crew can use automatic control. For other situation, we can use either remote operator or crew on board.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me just say, Alexander, that if you go on the Q&A tab, you will see that there are already some questions there for you. So, and this goes to all of the presenters. You can, when you finish your presentation, you can go and try and, this is what we did yesterday as well, reply in writing. Questions that they are, extended to you. But please, during the last Q&A session, please focus on our discussion and not at the same time try to reply to the questions. So thank you very much, Alexander. Thank you very much. And we can proceed now. I think that we can go back because I can see Fotis. So we can go back to the first presentation that it will be done by Fotis Economou from Danaos Management Consultants. And the title is Reaching Autonomous Control in Vessel Operation, conditional automation level 3. Foti, can you start sharing your presentation, please? And in the meantime, I can say that Fotis is a specialist in project management and business development, and he has gained experience in leading and managing projects in a diverse range of industries, including logistics, ports, shipping, and technology. He joined the company of Danaos as a senior consultant and research officer, facilitating the planning and execution of research projects. He is currently participating in a number of EU research projects, focused on applying innovative solutions in the maritime industry. Now, with his presentation, with his talk, he will be discussing about digitalization, which is gaining fast ground in the maritime industry, enabling smart control of ships. Automated procedures in ship operations are performed dynamically on edge, expecting that the human will respond appropriately to a request to intervene. So he will discuss about latest advancements and developments, specifically on digital twins, paving the way to full autonomy, which is at the end of the level, at the end of the hierarchy. And he will conclude with technologies and use case and challenges that are noted and documented into this new area. So Foti, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Nicolas. Sorry about earlier. I may face some technical problems, but I guess now they are sorted out. So we can, without further ado, I can proceed with the presentation. As we said before, I'm gonna walk you through about how today the maritime operation that is scalable from basic maritime information system to the port ship interface and the operation of the vessel is reaching what we call, even if it's not standardized, as Alexander said before, in the condition automation level 3. Before I go, just a few words about the department that I work. Is the Danaos Research Center. Danaos Research Center has to do with the research under the Danaos group of companies that actually lays in 2 pillars. Danaos, as you probably know, engaged in pure maritime management, managing a fleet of 71 container ships, and on technology, having a dedicated vertical best-of-breed maritime software applied to many maritime companies. What we do in the department is we are engaged in internal or co-funded project, basically in typical EU-funded projects. So among those, that you can find projects that actually rely on the topic that we're talking today about automation. One of these is Moses EU project that I will talk you later a bit, and Nicolas has the privilege to coordinate this project. When we're talking about automation level, make reference to the Society of Automotive Engineers. This is not standardized in maritime, but we can actually have it as a reference to see where we are standing on today. So we began from no automation at all, where we build all the systems and we control the human control fully the systems, and then now we can say that we reach some kind of partial automation, conditional automation, where we build up systems through sophisticated algorithms and AI machine learning that they can actually do the procedures all by themselves, and the user just like approve or disapprove a decision that it actually receives, a decision supported by the machine. And we are targeting to the full automation basically through new concept as more advanced AI machine learning, or the new so-called trend of the digital twins. Now the journey begins with what we call the autonomy information system. So basically, what we had before is systems that a group of users push information in a centralized database that actually configure the rules, the algorithms, they configure the workflow engine, who does what, the authorization level, the access rights. The system may have like data storage in a centralized data server, or maybe in a remote data server on cloud or whatever, but you are controller of your own information. So you push your pull information, you integrate the system, or you have like view on data analytics, and this actually support your decision in your company. whatever company it is, we're speaking about maritime companies. Now that we're moving through extensive, let's say, new trends. I mean, I can make a parallelism with ChatGPT that you all know it's trend nowadays, that the machine actually populate text for the human, and the human just actually let the machine to write the text from himself. And now we are moving to systems that actually are fully automated or semi-automated. So the group of users push informations. They create a federated learning, let's say, or a federated system that they can actually pull information from different sources in a centralized repository. They can actually apply AI training and cognitive training, both on how they're ruling their algorithm or how they do the workflow engine, and the machine actually can create a meaningful information that we can pull, and you are far from absorbing this information by right-clicking on an approval or a disapproval. So the system nowadays enhances information and speak like a knowledge service rather than a pooling information and distribution system. And speaking about federated learning and data aggregation model, we can go to what we are mostly engaged nowadays in our research department is about creating fully dedicated digital twins for the maritime community. We create, let's say, this build-up linkage between the physical object and the virtual object and physical objects that are actually close together and interrelated continuously. We extend connectors to the outside world. So we aggregate data, we distribute data, we monitor it, we apply models, AI models in a model repository that works like standardized model, and through configuration control and parametric versioning. And all this are put together to create a living lab when you actually simulate your own operation in the virtual world before you apply it to the actual world. So we create a virtual twin, a digital twin, as we call it, to actuate the decision on board. And this is actually the concept that we believe that we will forward the autonomy in shipping. And speaking about a tangible use case, you all know that before you plot your voyage and you are a captain on board, a captain on a vessel that is built nowadays with sensors, multiple sensors and critical machinery in the structure of your hull or on your navigation equipment. Then you aggregate all this data, and then you send a patch, let's say, to the office to apply machine learning in your route plot, basically a weather routing actually optimization, avoid the bad weather, send back to the captain and advice, and the captain probably will do whatever his expertise will do, and follow his own path. So what we try to do now is actually to put it all together on the edge, at the edge. So the captain not only have not only retrieve the information from the office or whatever this machine learning weather routing optimization can call, but has actually access to cloud information through other stakeholders or the port or other external information. We can try actually to apply behavioral modeling in the decision support system, so create some human digital twin to embed, let's say, the tacit knowledge or the implicit knowledge that the captain creates. So to leverage, let's say, the machine learning in the voyage planning, the voyage routing optimization, and all these are applied at the edge, at the vessel itself. So the captain is actually approving the route rather than actually getting an advice and following or not following. Now, as I think Alexander said before, now we create the concept of the e-navigation, a concept that is actually on the top through IMO and the Maritime Safety Committee from 2006, if I remember well, and is actually dedicated to harmonized collection, integration, exchange, and analysis of marine information on board, so to enhance the information for the officer on board. Now we are talking about VBS, which is actually a system on top of AIS, the conventional AIS, in large bandwidth, so you can actually exchange data in great numbers and sizes, or the nav data that actually is on top of nav text. So all this information that coming from different views and from different sources, if there are so on board, create, let's say, what we call an autonomy in the whole network itself. So we create it's been created standardized data sharing models. We actually move the global traffic control to the source, so the VTS, the coastal VTS or the port VTS, actually can arrange the traffic beyond the typical control that is nowadays. So we can enhance, of course, the global navigation awareness and safety, and reach the desired level of just-in-time arrival, whatever benefits comes with that. So you see that from auto information systems to computation at the edge on the board, the digital twin concept, and now to the whole network autonomy. Now we are engaged for the past, let's say, 2 years to a project that we call MOSES, and has to do with enhancement of the short sea shipping network. And it pulls like some automation on this network. So a typical short sea shipping network, it's created on a hub and spoke, let's say, configuration, where the big vessel comes to a big port, discharges or load its cargo, and then its cargo moved to the adjacent, let's say, pier, then loaded to a feeder, and the feeder goes to the small port and discharges the cargo. We applied 2 levels of automation. One has to do with the swarm of autonomous tugboat and an automobile provided by Trelleborg, which is actually works like a vacuum, and you can actually not rely on arrangements and whatever benefit. So you lower your emission, the port infrastructure is more reliable, or Steve Doring or conventional cranes or whatever. So you have your own configuration, and basically there are two use cases that we build in automation in the port ship interface. One has to do with a robotic container handling system for feeder vessels. So the feeder vessel that goes to the small port is gearful with a crane on board that will actually move the cargo from the shore to the vessel and vice versa. Semi-autonomous, with only a shore control center actually to control the operation. It consists of the hardware, the crane itself, a crane control unit, and a 3D world interpreter that are actually taking images for the surrounding area where the operation takes place, and together with the sensors, the leaders, and the camera, they create this automation, the crane control unit, so the crane itself, it's operated by itself, and the shore control center is actually reaching that so-called level automation 3, that they can actually monitor the process without interfering. And the second thing is about the swarm autonomous tugboat. They are pulling all together to tug the vessel, and they operate with this auto vacuum, let's say, docking system, and this creates an autonomous docking to the big vessel on the big port. Now, this all comes with challenges that all this swarm of tugs and the automobile should work together. The interoperability is just an issue. We're talking about a conventional ship that is actually a conventional manned ship from the human. So this is a human-machine interfaces with 2 different components that should be coordinated together. But we are reaching some pilot deployment that we will do in a scaled-down areas, and we will prove the concept in the later stages of the project. All these autonomies that begin from, as I said before, the autonomous information system to the port ship interface comes with challenges, of course. Challenges have to do with the regulation, the liability, the claims, who to claim in when an autonomous ship comes on board with a conventional ship, and all this regulation that is actually on board. The standardization of data center communication protocol. Again, data standardization is a headache in shipping. And when we're talking about autonomous operation and machine operation, we should look at the standardization models. As I said before, the autonomous and non-autonomous component in a network, in a port call or whatever, should speak together, so interoperability and integration between two components that are semi-autonomous, fully autonomous, or a different autonomous mode is always an issue. The human-machine interface, the social acceptance, let's say, of the machine, the trust or the autonomous bias that the level of trust of the operator has on the robots, on the machine, or the autonomous system is always an issue. The technology materials, I'm not a fear of that, because I think nowadays, when we're speaking about autonomous text that are building actually the concept out of the human brain, we cannot speak about technology maturity anymore. Cybersecurity, of course, is an issue in cybersecurity. In order to use the system is a three-way process. Has to do with the technology and all the components in order to suit your system. But then it comes with the processes and the security processes I'm talking about, and of course the training of the people to enhance their awareness on cyber threats. And last but not least, the informants of new skills and competencies in shipping. Now we're moving in a different picture where the staff, the people that are involved in shipping, has to enhance their own skills, comes with new competencies or new skill force. People that are data analysts, people that are actually rely on this, they actually have deep knowledge in machine learning and autonomous systems. So the whole scene is changing and it's continuously changing. I think completed the presentation. Thank you for your attention. Nicholas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Foti. I think that you are presenting Moses much better than I do. Thank you.
Thank you,
nice. Very nice. First of all, I would also like to urge you to go to the Q&A and reply if you see something relevant to your presentation and something interesting to you. Please provide any question, any reply that you deem appropriate in writing. So, can you please a little bit repeat and elaborate on this network autonomy? You are talking about now a bigger thing, eh?
Yeah. I'm thinking that I'm talking about this cloud navigation, the navigation that the officer on board on watch is not allowed. Actually, it can actually retrieve information that comes from different sources, from the port, from whatever. So it can actually embed all this information to the plotting system that they have on board, and the navigation system, and create plotting of voyages in a better way. And this actually enhanced this autonomy and collision avoidance. Now we are engaged in a project that we are looking at a data sharing model and a multi-sensor AI machine navigation modeling, colored based, for the IMO standardization on the collision avoidance. So all the talk is on this automation and collaboration of the whole network when you're plotting your vessel to your destination.
Yeah, indeed. Very interesting. Okay, just to gain some time, and we will come back to the Q&A. Foti, thank you very much. I already see a question on the Q&A for you, so please visit that and try to see whether you would like to also reply it in writing. So I guess that we can move to the next speaker. Now, the next speaker comes from Metrostar Management Corporation. It's Mattheos, I guess, Macheras, and he will be discussing about the current issues in maritime AI. He's a doctor, and Matthew is the Chief Information Officer of Metrostar Management Corporation. He holds a PhD in operational research from the National Technical University of Athens. It's the same university that I'm currently working there, and an MBA from the Imperial College in London. Dr. Macheras has a wide experience in managing innovative IT projects, typically involving cloud, Internet of Things, and AI, with a focus on cybersecurity and data privacy. Matthew, yesterday we had a very nice and very lengthy discussions about cybersecurity. So I guess you might be touching upon that on your presentation, or we will discuss later on. So before you start, I understand that you want to touch upon the famous promise that these autonomous, innovative vessels will be able, to operate around the clock without any delays, reduce costs, while being safer than manned vessels, as they are less likely to suffer from human error or fatigue-related accidents. So this promise.
Well, that's a big promise. Let's see what actually happens in practice. We've seen it yesterday and today. Yes, that's very good. And I was happy to see the previous speaker also mentioning cybersecurity. I only have a small but important mention to cyber in my presentation because, yes, I'd rather hear it from the outside. And my focus here, you see my presentation, yes?
Yep, everything's fine. Yeah, the floor is yours.
My focus here will be on the receiver end, let's say, because I come from an owning and managing company. So we do not develop all these solutions; we consume them, let's say. So let's take a review what's happening out there, and to be, in the edge of the things. Let me start with the right thing. I just asked ChatGPT, can AI navigate, you see it being print, a vessel autonomously in open sea today? That's a simple question. So let's see. Yes, it is technically possible for AI to navigate a vessel autonomously in open sea today. Significant advances, Mayflower, we all know the Mayflower and the Yara Bickerland, the coming. However, even AI knows that for itself. It's important to know that fully autonomous ships are still relatively rare and not widely used in commercial shipping. Security, safety implication, it will take some time before we see it dominating the seas. That's what ChatGPT answered. To give you a quick start, what happens with AI and maritime. But let's go back to what is AI. Well, AI, as we use it today, refers to the term of machine's ability to carry out tasks without having the knowledge beforehand. So it's a learning thing that can carry out tasks without us telling us exactly what to do. A fine example of all these are the personal assistants like Alexa, Siri, and so on. However, let's keep in mind, because we have a scientific audience here, that the fact is that despite the hype, computers still can't think. The Turing test, the original Turing test from the 50s, has not been passed yet. Academics agree that the original Turing test has not been surpassed yet. Meaning, just to remind everybody that you could not fool a person that this thing that he has in front of him is another person rather than a computer. And that's still true with ChatGPT. I understand immediately that this is a machine, not a person talking to me. It speaks very nice, very well, but it still is a machine because I can fool it easily. So what is AI good at, to come back to maritime and everything? As I say, AI's hard currency is prediction. AI is very good at predicting things, and we can use it in such uses. It uses mathematical models that work on huge, vast amounts of what we call training data to generate prediction. So it's easier for a machine to predict what the next move of a vessel coming against us will be based on vast data of previous passes of vessels, for example. So AI in maritime can be classified in 5 broad domains. First, of course, autonomous vessels and remote command systems. That's why we're here. Second, situational awareness and safety. Third, route optimization and fuel efficiency. and optimization in general. Fourth, port operation optimization, and AI-powered solutions in the back office. And I will start in reverse order from the softer applications to go down to autonomous vessels, which is the hardest, let's say, application. Beginning immediately with AI in the back office. The easiest and the first to come alive is, of course, AI assisting us in the back office. A fine example is ChatGPT, and you can find more of those in maritime, like in contrast comparison, in many things that could assist and sometimes replace in the junior level lawyers, if you just compare two contracts. Okay, a junior lawyer does this these days. A computer could do that at the first stage. HR staff, just a basic screening of the hundreds of CVs down to 10, and so on and so forth. For the moment, it's a very useful assistant tool, but it can take up several layers of the job. Voyage optimization, that's a very strong application in the maritime industry. There you have algorithms taking into account commercial information, weather information, traffic in the sea, to take advantage of all the conditions and give you the best route, both for your to spend less money and protect the environment. Following up, AI in port operations correlates with the voyage optimization that we saw earlier, because actually slow steaming, for example, the thing that, vessels going to the right speed, not overspeeding just to wait for more days outside the port, needs to cooperate with a smart port, like the ones in Rotterdam or Singapore, when you have a very accurate ETA. On top of that, you also have many autonomous systems these days in ports. We just saw the autonomous berthing example, but more of this, like cranes, inspection with drones, ground vehicles to transfer things around, are more and more in action these days, and that's it's a fact. And then you also have drones and other application of AI to inspect your vessel from underneath, okay, or the sea in general, or from above. Okay, so you have drones in the air, drones, submarine drones underneath, all working with complex algorithms and giving you back data without you having to go a ladder up or get in the water and get wet. The next big thing, and the first level of
In 2021,
the IMO that we'll see later, is situational awareness and safety. We have several vendors these days offering such solutions already, like sea machines, like Orca AI that gives you clear view in congested ports and at night and in fog. Similarly, Abacus, that has now been purchased by Hyundai and offered in many new builds, that also has an application for automated berthing. And that's the first level of autonomy. Let's keep in mind. And of course, to protect all these, and not only these, but also our offices, is AI-powered cybersecurity. Having all these systems means a greater attack surface, as we call it. It means you have many points on which the bad guys can attack. That's why you need even more advanced systems, behavioral systems that do not simply cut or allow something, but understand behaviors and take action when they see something strange happening. Okay, so recent examples were the Maersk case a couple of years ago, and more recently a ransomware attack in the Greek shipping industry, that the ones that had advanced AI systems were able to get away with no damage. The next step is manned autonomous vessels, which means that it can go, let's say, in autopilot while in the open water and being handled by the captain just to get out or in the port or in congested areas. And that's an example of a demo voyage that was done, that you can see the red parts, which is manned control, and all the white part is unmanned control. The people were standing by just watching it going like riding a Tesla down the road. Okay, and that's has happened already. And even collision avoidance, of course, it was a demo version voyage, and collision would not happen because the other vessel was also part of the experiment, but it showed that it can actually avoid the collision by changing its route back and forth. Here is the actual logs of the voyage. Okay, let's go down to autonomous vessels, some history. We all know 2018 was a landmark year. We had Svan, the first public demonstration autonomous voyage that was actually a ferry crossing. And more recently, 2022, last year, we had the christening and Kongsberg's Yara Bukeland that went into service, currently also controlled by onshore, by control command center, but pending regulation, you can go completely autonomous. The technical, the capability is there. Regulations are, let's say, lagging or tested. Yes, as we'll see later. So, the regulations of autonomous ships are still in the early stages of development. And we have here IMO, of course, taking the major steps and guidelines for the regulation, and of course, IAX, that has developed a set of principles for the classification of autonomous ships. And let's see a little more on that. Okay, that's the old map of the autonomy journey. We just heard that the wording will change. It would go from autonomy levels to autonomy modes. Modes, yes. Mode is the current word. But let's say that that's very useful to see what we're thinking about these things in 2017, and we're now 2023. Have we actually reached autonomy level 3, let's say, INAV remote and autonomous? Yes, in very few cases. Very few cases. And of course, INAV full, it looks like it would go further down the road. I don't think, nobody thinks that we have INAV full by 2025, in 2 years' time. Full, okay. So just last year, IMO completed a regulatory scoping exercise on maritime autonomous surface ships, MASS, that was designed to access existing IMO instruments, all the treaties and conventions and all these things, to see how they might apply to ships with varying degrees of automation. Okay. And finished in 103rd session of the Maritime Safety Committee. This is from the official IMO website that says the results of the regulatory scoping exercise that highlights a number of high priority issues cutting across several instruments, again, meaning conventions and treaties and things like that, that will need to be addressed at the policy level to determine future work. The key thing is here to see that the definition and clarifying of meaning of terms such as master, crew, or responsible persons need to be clarified or redefined if we reach autonomy degree 3 or further up. Okay, and I'll show you an example right here. That's an example of all the treaties, of not all the treaties, some of the treaties that we have, and need to fit in there the autonomous vessel. And we have a tick whenever we have something that has to be discussed. Like, what is a remote operator? What does a certificate mean in this case? Who gets trained? The system gets trained. Right now, we have our crew getting trained and getting a certificate. And here again, we see the comments of degree 3 or degree 4. Of course, the lowest degree might already pass the test of regulation. And a very, being Greek, a very nice example is the Athens Convention relating to the carriage of passenger, done in 1974. And here we have definitions that need to be made. What does server or agent of the carrier mean in the case of an autonomous vessel? What does fault or neglect of the carrier mean? It's not that simple. So all this will go, the next committee, yes, is the legal, a joint MSc legal and FOL committee coming up this April. So things are going forward, definitely, because all this exercise can be carried out and we get in there to actually doing the right thing. Similarly, Ajax has released a position statement saying what the classification societies are going about it. What are they going to do about autonomous vessels? One thing is that they say that they will try their best to put the least obstacles in the development of autonomous vessels and support. And they will also go back to existing Ajax resolutions and recommendations related to mass to make them easier to attend and more to the point. Of course, they will provide, as classification societies, their expertise in going back and creating the rules, and monitor or participate in all activities with IMO, ISO, European Community, and keep in touch with the relevant industry, us, meaning the ship owners and ship operators, to make it a reality. So we see that here are the steps to make an autonomous ship a reality, other than, just a scientific fiction thing. And going back to the market, we see that there are a great autonomous marine ecosystems by vendors, private vendors, that cooperate to produce a common language for the things to come in autonomous shipping. So that's it for me. I was as fast as I could. Please, for your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Very interesting and very, very, it's a 101. It's the basis. You said the basis very nice for all the issues that we are discussing and for everything about autonomy levels or modes or whatever. If I may, are you doing something regarding autonomy with your on your company? Are you?
Our company, from all these things that I presented right now, our new builds only have the advanced LiDAR and these things that navigational.
Navigational,
Yeah.
So you are using it as a navigational aid. You are installing navigational aids.
And safety enhancement, let's say.
Okay. If I may I ask? Okay,
But this is clearly the first step, because the next step would be to give it some autonomy in easy parts of the voyage, having all these things. Yeah. This will be the next step. I think that's how the whole industry would go, at least for us with tankers, which is very heavy regulated. Yeah. Ferries might be easier, but tankers is not so easy.
And if I may ask you something from your experience and what you see in the industry. Okay, we are talking about various levels of autonomy, various levels of or modes of autonomy. May I ask, do you think that the technology is there for anything and any point we want to reach, and it depends upon us how and what we want to do? Do you think that there is maturity in technology?
The technology as bits and parts, I think it's definitely there. What is not there, it's the magic force that would bring all this together and then pass it on to the regulators and to everybody that needs to be involved. Because what's the meaning of having the most advanced collision avoidance system if it cannot cooperate with the collision avoidance system of the other vessel crossing, or with the port, or with all this, or if your insurer does not accept your terms about insuring your vessel, or if your charter does not accept any of these things. So what's missing clearly is, all the vendors coming together and all the stakeholders coming together and accepting. And this will go, of course, by natural selection, let's say, some kind of evolution. Other things will survive, other will die, other will come together and go on and forth. That's my feeling.
Thank you very much, Matthew. I would like to urge you as well to go at the Q&A tab, because I see there is a big question referring to you, and if you can provide some initial reply in writing, it would be much nice, much beneficial to everybody. Thank you very much. So I think we can proceed with the next presenter from DFDS. Mats, are you with us?
I think I was the next presenter, Nicholas.
You are the next presenter, because I have it the other way around. So Andy, very nice. So we have IBM with us, and that's very nice. Andy will discuss exactly about Mayflower. I think that Matthew has mentioned Mayflower, autonomous ship, the future of autonomous marine exploration. I guess, Andy, that during and while you are sharing your presentation, I can provide a couple of info from your bio. Professor Andy Stanford-Clark is innovation leader in IBM's corporate strategy organization, and he is a technical leader of the Mayflower autonomous ship project. I think Mayflower and Yara Bigland are the most famous ones. Okay, so he is an IBM distinguished engineer and a master inventor with more than 40 patents, and he's based in the UK and has been working in the area we now call IoT, the Internet of Things, for more than 25 years. He has a bachelor in computing and mathematics and a PhD in computer science, and he's a visiting professor at 3 universities in the UK and a fellow of the British Computer Society. I'm certain that we will all hear very, very eagerly what you will say about Mayflower. As I said, it's most probably one of the most famous paradigms. So the floor is all yours.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And hello to everybody. Very fascinating, very interesting presentation of the previous speaker. Gave me lots of thoughts about what I'm about to present. So I really hope you enjoy this. So this is the Mayflower autonomous ship. This is a 3D photogrammetry scan that we had made of it. So we've actually done some digital twin work where we can fly in and around and help with maintenance planning and data feeds and all sorts of stuff from a 3D digital twin. So the Mayflower autonomous ship was originally conceived to be the celebration in Plymouth, UK of the 400th anniversary of the original Mayflower crossing the Atlantic from Plymouth, UK to Plymouth, Massachusetts in September, 1640. No, whatever it was, 400 years ago anyway. And the original plan was to set off on the 16th of September 2020, which was the 400th anniversary. didn't quite happen that way, mainly due to COVID and some other delays. But we had the naming ceremony on that date to celebrate the 400th anniversary. And the original idea was that rather than looking back 400 years to celebrate those 400 years of marine history, we look forward to the next 400 years of marine history, of marine future, and look at
dear Andy, sorry for interrupting. Sorry, but I don't know whether it's only me, but I hear a lot of static noise. Do you have a phone close by or something?
No, it's completely silent. That's very strange.
It's completely silent. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Let me just quickly see if there's something eating my machine. Just kill a couple of things, see if that helps. Maybe that improves things.
Not really, but if you know, go ahead. I mean, yeah.
Okay, sorry. So the idea of the Mayflower is to sail an autonomous ship, level 4 autonomy, as was described in previous slides. Controlled by an AI captain who's in charge of the ship from across the Atlantic, from Plymouth, UK to Plymouth, Massachusetts. It's a largely solar-powered boat, always got a biodiesel generator backup, and the idea is to be a platform for scientific experiment to help us understand the impact of climate change on the oceans and the impact of man's pollution of the ocean, particularly microplastics. So the idea is you can change different experiments in and out for different voyages. So it becomes a platform for marine investigation. The ship was funded by a not-for-profit marine organisation called Primari, and these two guys, the guy on the right, Brett Phaneuf, is the owner and the CEO of M-Subs, which is a company that builds autonomous submarines normally. So they built Mayflower. And the guy on the left is Don Scott, who's the CTO of a spin-out from M-Subs called Marine AI, which was set up to develop the AI captain technology and deliberately making it separable from Mayflower, so that Mayflower would just be an example of a ship that could be controlled by the AI captain. Then IBM's the lead technology partner, providing a lot of the technology building blocks on which the AI captain was built. We've been working on this for about 6 years now. Very exciting project, real pioneering stuff, and IBM likes a good challenge. Once you've decided not to have any crew on board, then form follows function, and the design of the ship, you don't need beds or kitchens, galleys or toilets or fresh water or storage space or headroom. All that can go, and the entire space is given over to the purpose of the ship, which is scientific exploration. So you can see some of the computers in there, and these empty bays, you can see those are for science experiments to go inside. The AI captain is an interesting combination of 3 technologies. There's deep learning, then machine learning, which is we would normally think of an AI, doing human-like interpretation of data. Then we've got some prescriptive logic or inference rules. This is how we coded the collision regulation set of rules. And the nice advantage of this is that we have what's called explainability, which means that we can ask the AI captain, why did you make that decision? Normally, if it's a black box AI system, I can't tell you why it made the decision. It just says, from my learning, that's what I decided to do. Whereas with the prescriptive logic, the rules-based system, we can actually go in and find out what inputs led to what decision tree, led to what outputs, and find out what either went wrong or what went right. And then there's an optimizer, which is a linear programming model, which takes all the possible future outcomes and does an optimization constrained by the things that can't happen, like how much power we've got left in the batteries, how much the sun is shining, how close the vessels are around it, what direction they're going in.
The buzzing noise is there, and I think it's very unfair to you because you are talking about very nice things. But by any chance, can you change to the microphone of your computer?
I'll put my earbuds in, see if that helps. How do I change the settings? You know how I can change the audio settings? Other. Okay. Okay.
Superb. Perfect. Now we cannot hear you.
I can't hear you now.
Now we can hear you. No, you can go on. No static noise. Nothing. Thank you very much.
Okay. Great, marvelous. Sorry about that, folks. So these three components together form the brain of the AI captain. So the machine learning side of it is doing situational awareness. So it's taking images from 6 cameras, 2 on the front, 2 at the back, 2 at the sides, and is doing data fusion with AIS data and radar data to disambiguate the images that it's seeing. We've trained an IBM product called Maximo Visual Inspection on about 1.5 million images of things you might see at sea, which are all labeled, everything from icebergs to cliffs to seagulls to stand-up paddleboards to ships in different orientations. So the ship knows what's around it. Although we get most of our data from the radar, because that obviously looks further ahead. And then we've got the collision regulations, as I mentioned, are encoded in an IBM product called Operational Decision Manager. The nice thing about this is that it uses an English-like syntax. So we can show the rules to a sea captain and say, does this rule make sense? If you turn 5 degrees to starboard, if something's turning 4 degrees towards you from port or something like that. And the rules make sense in English. So in terms of the life cycle management of those rules, it's much easier to do this rather than having to deal with lines of code, millions of lines of code, which only a programmer can understand. We then have the decision-making process, which is the optimizer that I mentioned. This is an IBM product called Cplex, which is a constrained linear optimizer. And this takes in all the possible futures, one of which is a big factor is the weather. So IBM owns the weather company, which is the data company behind the Weather Channel. And we have highly accurate weather forecasts for the whole planet on a 0.5 kilometer grid, updated every 15 minutes. So we pre-process those weather forecasts in the IBM cloud and send down over the satellite link to the ship the weather systems that we think the AI captain should care about. And then it factors that into its calculations to avoid it basically picks the least bad weather systems to go through. Because it's a small ship. It's about 15 meters wide, 15 meters long, 6 meters wide. So on a big, in a force 10, it's tossed around like a cork. So we need to avoid the worst of the weather. We also implement SOLAS, safety of life at sea. So the AI captain behaves like a more experienced captain rather than a teenager with the keys to the boat. So that combination then decides what's the next best action. We give the ship a set of waypoints, the last of which is the destination, and it's up to the AI captain how it goes between those waypoints in order to get to the final one, which is the destination. So it's a self-directing autonomous ship. The experiments on board, we picked a set working with a number of research partners. In particular, wanted to focus on ocean chemistry and pollution sampling, and also looking out for assessing the health of marine wildlife. We did this by just see which slides I've got here. So the chemistry of the ocean was tested by a number of sensors of the normal sort of things you might expect, like CTD and alkalinity and pH and conductivity and depth and temperature and all the kind of usual things. But we also had an experiment from IBM Research called Hypertaste, which is essentially an electronic tongue that is able to licks the ocean on a regular basis to see whether it's what chemical compounds are present. That's in that sort of box with the blue bands around it down there. So we bring the water in from the outside, push it over these sensors, which uses a machine learning model to understand the flavors that it's tasting. Interestingly, this project called Hypertaste was from IBM Research in Zurich, and they originally built it for spotting counterfeit whiskey for a distillery in Scotland. So this has found a new application in understanding ocean chemistry. The data coming from the ship, we get a small amount of data coming over the satellite link, but it's a limited bandwidth link over the Iridium low Earth orbit satellites. So the bulk of the data is stored on board the ship, and then that's offloaded later. So we have we call it a digital twin, but it's a sort of data repository of all the data coming off the ship in real time. It's sent out over the messaging transport MQTT so that people can subscribe to it in real time, get live dashboards to show what's happening at the moment. And then, as I say, the large data sets, there's like 3 terabytes of data we offloaded when she got to the other side, which were the basis for a lot of university research that's now underway. One of the projects was a hydrophone, so we put a hydrophone under the boat, and that we've got audio recordings of the crossing. We had quite a lot of dolphins hanging out with us, which is pretty cool. We were hoping to find some whales because we had an experiment which was classifying whale songs using a neural network model. But we also picked up some dolphins, and they were swimming along with the boat because she's very sleek through the water, very quiet through the electric motors. So they liked sort of hanging out with the boat, which was quite cool. We got some video of like 4 or 5 dolphins just swimming in front of the boat at one point. Really, really nice. So the original plan was to go from, as I mentioned, to recreate the journey of the original Mayflower from Plymouth, UK to Plymouth, Massachusetts. We eventually set out on this mission last April, so just over a year ago. Gosh, it seems a very long time ago now. We had a technical problem close to the Azores, so we diverted to there for repairs. It was a problem with the battery charging system, but we were able to fix that very easily. And then there was a big storm came through, so we waited a week to ride out that storm in Horta Harbour, and then we set off again. And then about 1,000 miles from land, we had another problem with one of our navigation computers. Luckily, we had a spare, so we switched over to that one. But we thought we'd better divert to the nearest land, which was Halifax, Nova Scotia, which was a journey of 3,500 miles, completed in 32 days at sea. We had technically crossed the Atlantic, although we weren't in Plymouth and we weren't actually in North America. We're in Canada, but nonetheless, we had arrived in Halifax, which was pretty cool. And then a couple of days later, we went round the corner round to Plymouth. Took another couple of days to go down there. And there she is parked next to Mayflower 2, which is the replica of Mayflower 1, which was built to commemorate one of the anniversaries. So that's a real sort of old meets new, very symbolic reference. Nearly 4,000-mile journey, most of it autonomous, and very, very exciting thing to have done because for a long time we talked about that we were going to do this. Now we actually have done this. A lot of people are very interested in talking to us from a number of areas, from commercial shipping to research to a lot of interest from defense as well. Now we're going to we are analyzing all the data. So the data has been spread to the universities and the research partners who are working with us. The data sets will be made public, or in fact are public, because Primari is promoting research about the sea, so they're very keen for the data to be made available. So if anybody's interested in data from the Mayflower voyage, do feel free to contact me. As I mentioned, we are getting a lot of interest from from many areas, including commercial shipping, and the idea that the AI captain is a separable piece of software that can be run on any ship technically. There's a lot of interest in not so much replacing the captain with an AI captain, but maybe an AI first officer. So a second set of eyes on board on the bridge, always alert, never getting tired, never distracted, or keeping an eye out for potential hazards ahead. So we think that will be the first way that this technology manifests itself in the commercial shipping world. If you want to learn more about it, mas400.com is the website. It's a little bit out of date at the moment because we're sort of in between missions, but Mayflower's going to be out again. She's going to be based at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute in Massachusetts, and she's going to be operating out of there. So she'll be exploring some of the western side of the Atlantic, in particular collaborating with some other research ships on a research project called Twilight Zone, which is cataloguing the flora and fauna between 100 meters and 1,000 meters depth. So that's going to be her first mission. In a few months' time, she's being refitted with some new technology at the moment, some multi-beam sonar scanners, so she can go out and join that fleet of research ships. Really interesting stuff ahead, and it's been a huge pleasure to me working on this project for the last 3-4 years that I've been involved in it, and hopefully many more adventures to come. If you're interested in a Mayflower t-shirt, oh, there's Artie. We've got a merchandise site. You can get yourself a Mayflower t-shirt. And if anybody wants to contact me, I'm Andy SC on Twitter, or andysc@uk.ibm.com on email. Thank you. I'm very happy to answer any of your questions, and sorry about the sound.
Thank you, Andy. I think that at the end you had a very perfect sound. Very nice. And to tell you the truth, I think that most of us here, we are quite envy of you working on this project. It's very, very nice, very exciting, because you are actually, doing some actual on the hands thing, and this is very, very nice. May I ask something? I guess that situational awareness is very important, and you mentioned about data fusion. Can you a little bit elaborate on that? Which kind of sensors and what kind of sources you are gathering the data, and how you combine them, and what come back?
Yeah, so it's a combination of visual from anything that's within 20 miles that we can see, and the radar, and that helps to disambiguate the image. So if you've got a boat going like that, looking at boats that are going like that, it's very easy to convince yourself the sky is just full of boats, whereas the fact the radar saying no, there's just one boat, it's just that your cameras are moving around. So that's a really good way of kind of sense checking which is the correct situation. And then the other source is AIS, which of course we can get from the satellite AIS, so we can get visibility a lot further out of the speed and direction of oncoming ships, and so we effectively use that as a long range radar. I know people don't always turn their AIS on, but mostly it's a good thing to have, and so those are the three that we use for situational awareness. And it's quite interesting because close to shore, and with the MCA rules, we have to have an escort boat within 12 nautical miles of the coast. We can still run autonomously, but it has to have a ship nearby with a big red stop button in case anything happens. But in the open ocean, like in the middle of the Atlantic, what we classified as a near miss was something that came within 100 miles of us. So it's a very lonely place out there in the ocean. So we didn't see very much, to be honest. We made a couple.
Go ahead.
So we made a couple of course corrections when a large tanker was on a collision course with us, still 200 or 300 miles out. But we just thought, well, we'll just get out of the way. There's no need for it to get close to us, so we'll just turn it. Nice. It's much easier for us to turn than it is for a tanker to turn.
Yeah, I would suppose so. And if I say, I see. When we finish, please, your presentation, please go at the Q&A tab, because I think there are a couple of questions for you there. But I see a very interesting one in the sense that what happens in the middle of the Atlantic if you have an emergency, like a rudder failure, or a power failure. Do you have an accompanying vessel nearby, or
No, so
no?
this is the problem. So with no people on board, you're at the mercy of the smallest little mechanical failure. So our mission in 2021, we only got as far as about level with the western tip of Ireland, because a flexible hose coupling broke on the exhaust system, and then all the exhaust gas went into the hold, and it got sucked into the ingestion for the generator. So we had to abort the mission. And if we'd have had a person with some gaffer tape to put around some duct tape, we could easily have fixed it. But now, if you read science fiction books, as I do, then all the autonomous spaceships all have a mech droid like R2D2 or nanoparticles, which can go around and fix holes in the hull and can fix things. We don't have any of that stuff on board. We haven't got a robot grab arm to go and pick up some tape and put it around. So we're really at the mercy of the reliability of the mechanical systems. Turns out we've been let down by mechanical systems every time. The computer systems have worked great, but it's been things like the battery wiring, this problem with the pipe. It was an earthing problem on one of the cables was chafing, which caused the other problem. So this is a real problem. So I think what we'll probably see is that there will be minimal crew on board autonomous ships, even if it's just an engineer to fix things when things go wrong.
Very nice, very nice.
But Mayflower had nothing.
Yeah, Andy, this is a very nice point. At least a minimum crew will be on board, just as you said, for this kind of things. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. If you can visit the Q&A and reply in writing, and we will come back later on during the Q&A session. So thank you, Andy. Mats,
I'm not seeing any questions, by the way.
There are at the end. I think that I can see some questions for Andy at the published. You should go under the published tab. Okay.
Got it. Okay, I will answer those. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mats, you are with us.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. I cannot see you though, and it would be nice. And until I can see you, let me just say that you will present about autonomous ships, the view from a shipping company. As I said, we have a strong representation of the industry today. However, most of the companies are very much also interested into research, and this goes very nice hand by hand. So Mats is head of the innovation and partnerships in DFDS with a strong focus on strategy, concept and partnership development, and management of a number of innovation, automation, and decarbonization projects within shipping and logistics. He held the position as project manager at some point in Danish Maritime Authority, governmental agency, involved in a number of national and international projects dealing with safety at sea, in navigation, digitalization, standardization, maritime technologies, and he's also active in several steering committees and advisory groups that have represented Denmark in committing, working groups, expert groups, and a number of other international fora like IMO, IALA, Arctic Council, goes on and on. Today, I'm certain that you will give us a very, very, very nice view of how DFDS looks at the overall problem, and I'm talking about overall because a DFDS cover many modes of transportation, so you can have the whole chain, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Mats, the floor is all yours. But still, we cannot see. I don't know whether you have switched on your camera or not.
No, I have, but let me just run. I know I'm the one between you and home, so I will be quick and try to make it interesting.
Okay, super.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for the earlier presentations. I start this presentation with a picture of a truck, and that is because I want to make a point in the beginning that when talking autonomous vessels and kind of in commercial applications, then we need to look at it from a network perspective or a network approach. And often the cargo starts somewhere else than in the port. It needs to be taken by truck or some other equipment to the port. So that is also what we are doing in DFDS. We are an integrated logistic provider. This is the map of our operations. We are operating in Europe, both on land with trucks and on rail. We have terminals, cross-dock facilities, warehouses, and then of course we have the route network for our vessels. We operate operate a little more than 75 vessels in the network, and doing 35,000 voyages or more per year, which is also quite interesting when talking autonomy. We have a lot of repetition in our network. We are going from A to B and back, and it is not like a milk run or what other shipping lines are doing or engaged in. Another point is that I have 11,000 colleagues in our operation every day working to move cargo and passengers around in the network. We are not in the autonomous space to replace a colleague with a robot. We are in this space to work smarter, to do the best with the resources we have, both in regards to employees or colleagues and in regards to money and in time. So it is from that perspective that we are entering this space of autonomy. We have worked in the maritime industry for more than 55 years, actually 157 years now. Started out as a steamship company that have been transformed due to efficiency into a diesel or fossil fuel company, and now we are looking into this new green future, which is linking well into the autonomy space as well. These are the different projects we are running in regards to green transition. We have two main strategy items at the moment. Autonomy is one of them. The other one is the green transition and decarbonization. And you can say that autonomy is kind of on top or below everything we're doing in the name of green transition as well. That goes both on trucks. It goes for the barge that is in the middle, and also for the ships or larger ships in the bottom. Normally you talk about these drivers in regards to autonomy when you're evaluating the benefits in autonomy. For a long time it was safety and health that was kind of driving the autonomy projects. At some point it changed very much to be a cost reduction measure. And I think we are going back at some point. We're kind of on the backside of the hype curve in regards to autonomy. There's other areas that we are looking more into as an industry. You can also see it as on a timeline, where I would say that the last one on this with the driver and seafarer shortage is maybe the one that is the main driver for many, or the one that are pushing us in the direction of automation and less manual work. We can see it in Europe on the roads where we are lacking truck drivers, and you can see it in Japan, for example. That is the first one where automation at sea or maritime automation is very central to their development of the industry. DFDS are engaged in a number of projects automating processes. The most recent one is the MODI project, looking at trucks between Oslo and Netherlands, Germany. We are there to look at arrival and departure from ports, so going through gates, driving on public and a private road with the trucks. We are involved in the award project as well. That is automation of terminal processes, so handling our vehicles or trailers in the terminals with autonomous yard tractors. That is the one on the right. But also looking into optimizations in that process, and using these vehicles to optimize the process and the time spent on port stays for the vessels as well. Then going a little more towards the sea is the Aegis project, autonomous ships meets automated ports, where we are looking specifically on inland waterways and the connection to hinterland operations. From the DFDS side, NCL is also involved with smaller ports in Norway, and Port of Aalborg and Vordingborg Havn is also involved, small ports in Denmark, where we are looking at revitalizing smaller ports through automation of processes. When going a little further to sea, we have a test vessel, Zealandia Seaways, that is currently operating between Cuxhaven in Germany and Immingham in UK, where we are equipping the vessel with various sensors and intelligent systems in many ways to test and validate advanced navigation, as we call it. So we have we have connectivity on board the vessel. We're testing that as well with Starlink, for example, and we have a full connection of all areas through fiber and Ethernet cables. Right now we have cameras, the specs cameras that is on the left installed. They are providing the picture that you can see on the right, distances to objects around the vessel. We are also using a radar, RS-24 radar, which is a high frequency radar that can, I believe it is also on the Mayflower. And we're also using a drone, an autonomous drone system that is normally hovering 150 meters up in the air and providing very accurate distances to objects around the vessel. It can be the key for auto docking, or it can be augmentation of objects on the water surface. So that is one of the systems where we're starting to look into these existing vessels and how we can use automation for those. This is the in regards to the drone, it can help in docking situations for input for auto docking, or it can be a decision support system for the crew that it is working as today. Then we can use it for search and rescue, where it has knowledge on where the vessel have been before, and it has a thermal camera and a regular camera where you can find persons in the water and relay that information to the ship and to search and rescue authorities for a speedy recovery of that person. And then we can use that, as we heard before, also for inspection of the vessel, where we can make these flights around the vessel and check if everything is okay. And there's a lot more. We are looking into fire management as well at the moment to support those functions. I will close off. It is actually, I put it up as 2 questions because there are several tracks, and often we have autonomy as kind of a binary thing where we talk about either it is unmanned or it is manned. But there are a lot of steps between, and that is the approach from DFDS as well, that we are on this on these steps towards autonomy and unmanned at some point. For the existing vessels, we see a lot of benefits and operational advantages in decision support as the first one. It can also be the auto docking functionality, and it can be periodically unattended bridge at some point. So to optimize the operation on board and support the crew that is already there to do the complex tasks and to spend their time in the right way. Often when we talk to the seafarers about this, then they say that we can automize the paperwork instead of automizing the navigation, but that is a separate question. And then when looking into the future, autonomy can also be seen as the enabler for these small and flexible green vessels that we will see. I put on one of these sailing vessels that is coming out and being projected at the moment. But that autonomy can be in the enabler for this new business model or transport as a service that we will see in the coming years. So that was a really quick. So we also have time for the kind of the active part of the event. So thank you very much for listening, and looking forward to questions and dialogue. Please reach out. I have my mail in the bottom here.
Thank you, Mats. Thank you very much. If I may, can I ask you? Can you a little bit come back to these autonomy drivers and just elaborate a little bit on the fact that the shortage seems to be a very strong, the personnel shortage seems to be a very strong driver on the one hand, but on the other hand, we always hear about, potential unemployment, change of the nature of tasks, different kind of, seafarers that they will be needed in case of some autonomy modes. Can you a little bit elaborate on that? How do you think this, this balance between these 2, let's say, features?
Yeah, I think I don't think that we will see unemployment anytime soon in this domain. If we're looking at the truck drivers, if we start there, then we're lagging 100,000 or something like that in Europe alone. So a lot of these tasks are, I don't expect us to make people unemployed. They need to do something else. It can be manning a remote control center. They can be home with their family more often than every 3 months if we're talking seafarers. So I think we will see a completely new operational domain appearing, and people will still be part of the operation, but they will be performing other tasks. From my side, it is mainly the safety and health that can drive this forward. I think if we look at autonomy on a lot of operation on vessels, they are 24/7. It means that people will work at night, and we know that night shifts will reduce the life expectancy dramatically when performing work at night over a number of years. So having automation take care of these unhealthy and safety related operations, I think that will be kind of the main goal here. Then we're looking at if we're looking at inland waterways vessels as well, we are looking into this increased productivity of these different assets. Often they are sailing fewer hours a day and laying still at night, for example, or in other periods, and that we can kind of extend the operational period by automation there. And then a very important point as well is kind of right now we are seeing the vessels getting bigger and bigger. It is removing flexibility from the customers. It will be a departure every week or every second day instead of every 12 hours or every day. So running smaller vessels that can be enabled by autonomy can be the future of our industry that we will see materializing sometime in the very near future.
And Mads, I would like to thank you at this point, and at the same time kick off the Q&A session and come back to you, because you touched upon that, and I see a question on the chat, on the Q&A tab, referring exactly at inland shipping and how autonomous modes and levels are. Matthew, since I have you here, and can you give me, your? Standardization here plays a very important role. We need to have that. How do you see it? What do you expect? Do you expect a different level of standardization of what we have right now? What's your opinion on that?
Standardization will say, it's sometimes they call it the fourth wave of industrial revolution. So these have driven the previous waves in any way. So this will also be like, yes, and that's maybe what I answered to the previous question and to the one that the bits and pieces are there, and either in the market by vendors or in the universities by researchers of the solutions. But getting all these together is a huge step that has to be taken. And this cannot be done without standardization, of course. And there, yet, leaving aside the standardization itself, the very essence, also more technology can feed in, like blockchain, that can keep something more lively than it used to be. The back and forth of the standards could be streamlined these days with blockchain technology, and this could be kept in a more modern manner that could change very fast and dynamically.
Yeah, I think that we are the only two. The two of us here. I don't see any other presenter. Is there anybody else? I don't know. So what do you plan to do now? You said that you are started installing on your boats, on your ships, vessels, some assistance, some aid, some equipment.
Navigational, yes.
Yeah, navigation. What comes next? I mean, do you have a strategy?
I answered in written in some of the questions, asking about what do you do about unpredictable things that happen in the waters, like piracy. Somebody asked, and then they also asked, why would you trust I'm summarizing the questions to answer your questions as well. They also asked why a charterer should trust his precious cargo to an autonomous system. Starting from the end, right now they should not trust his precious cargo to an autonomous system because the laws are not there, regulations are not there, and nobody would ensure such a thing for the time being. However, going to the other question, things like piracy, which seems very strange, and we think that yes, that was earlier. Yes, the admin live Q&A. Yes, I got a message from the. Okay, I think it's okay. So, piracy, for example, piracy incident can benefit in two ways. First, an intelligence system could gather in a little time, in few years, hundreds worth of years of knowledge of what happens when, usually in what frequency. So, for example, just by triangulating GPS coordinates with incident information from public sources, you could know your risk. On top of that, a system like the ones we're getting, and a navigation enhancement system that sees during night through the fog very far behind a vessel that it's currently in front of you. These systems can see behind this vessel. Such systems can send you a very early warning based on behavior. For example, when a pirate boat approaches, and it's similar to the cyber logic, because that's behavior. When it sees a small boat going fast, first strange thing, and not having an AIS signal, because it also has feed from the AIS, marine traffic, let's say. So if you see these three things, something small coming fast towards you with no AIS, then a huge alarm would, beep that this is pirates coming for us, specifically us, not somebody else, because if you can triangulate. So having these together, first, a very good and fast statistic to give you a heads up where not to go, because you had many piracy incidents. When you start reaching, don't go there. You had like 3 of them last month. Okay, and then even if you go there, something is moving against you that no other source could find out. Not a radar, because it's a small thing, very low, very far. Even if you see it, you don't know if it's pirate or just a fisherman. You have to triangulate that doesn't have, and in real time. So these kinds of things can start building up confidence into these systems. And the last step before having autonomous would be the emergency autonomous. For example, if the captain or the second officer cannot go on the bridge, they have to evacuate because of a chemical incident, then you could have an emergency autonomous thing to remotely get your vessel safely somewhere else. This will be the last step before we get to actually autonomy.
What about maintenance? I mean, there is some regular maintenance going on right now on board ships. This will not be happening, as I understand.
I was just ready to tell you that, this is already happening, because the makers, the engine makers, for example, they are already installing, let's say, under the radar, with our agreement, of course, many autonomous, let's say, systems that give you early warning, that you do not do preventive, as we know it, maintenance. We do condition-based maintenance. We wait for a signal, something to show that it will go bad. So makers are pushing to this direction. So and human involvement is becoming less and less and less important. You don't have to be near the engine and hear a strange noise. You get it from a BI.
From the sensor, From the sensor.
Yeah, exactly. Not even the sensor, but just by combining metrics. For example, increased diesel, going on, less RPM, things that combine together without hearing or getting anything from any sensor, just knowing the RPMs in the fuel, you can get some insight. That's the way.
Very, very nice. I can see. I don't see, but I see a screen, a window with Mads. I don't know, Mads. Can you hear us, Mads? Mads? No, I see that. I don't know. I probably lost Matthew as well. But in the meantime,
No, I'm here, but close my.
Okay. In the meantime, before continuing and closing and the Q&A, let me just say that with regards to the polls, the three questions that we have issued, I can see here that as a result from the first question, which ship type do you think is the most suitable for autonomous operation? I think, and I see that by far, the three top categories, they were the special purpose vessels, research, maritime drones. We have already heard about it. This is at the top of the list. Then container ships come. And then I can see that the third is there are bulk carriers, which is kind of, but if it goes on a ocean going big or large and with a big duration ocean going vessel might make sense. But please keep in mind that was the special purpose vessels with maritime drones dominating there and container ships that held the first two places. Then with the current technology, how safe do you think autonomous ships will be compared to conventional ships? And the biggest, more than 50%, lies with reply B, at least as safe. I mean, when we want to design a system, we are doing it at least as safe as the current one. With safer and less safe getting split opinion between these two. And the last question was if you were a passenger on an autonomous passenger ferry. I understand that autonomous passenger ferry is a very broad and generic term. It doesn't give the level or the mode of autonomy, but you got, I think, the overall idea. Would you be willing to travel with no crew on board? And I see that there is a majority of people that said that they would feel, partially comfortable with that, with not at all and absolutely split it around 25%. This is very, very interesting. All questions you see, it gives a direction of how which ships are more, prone to this kind of technology introduction, and it also gives, the perception of people in terms of either technology or of how a passenger would feel in case of such a thing. Now I can see Alexander, and this is nice. Alexander, I saw a question somewhere whether your system is only about navigation or it also covers other aspects of shipping, like propulsion or safety issues or this kind of stuff. So, what do you think?
In fact, actually, we focus on navigation itself, firstly. I would say that we have already enough of technical engineering systems which are automatically or remotely controlled. We have a lot of engineering system under the current regulation which are used on traditional vessels. You know about LNG tanker, if I recall correctly, in China in 2019, which was announced as absolutely autonomous of engineering from engineering systems point of view. So all the systems on board were controlled either automatically or remotely. And the only autonomous navigation is currently the gap which prevent us from implementing autonomous shipping. So we are focusing on autonomous navigation as a major question, as a major issue. We have already automatic cranes for cargo handling. We have already unattended machine rooms. So we have a lot of automatic systems.
Okay. Thank you very much. And if I may, I don't know whether Mats can hear us as well. I can see a window, but just that much, nothing else. We cannot see you or we cannot hear you. I don't know whether it's only me. I don't know, Alexander. Can you hear Mats? No, huh?
No, unfortunately, now I can hear only you.
Yeah. If I may ask also, okay, we are talking about autonomous modes, various degrees. Okay, what about training? Are we trained? Are we? I mean, I saw somewhere that you mentioned SSW. Do we train seafarers? Do we train a system? What we will be training?
Well, first of all, we are talking that we need to train seafarers. Again, what I'd like to say, we do not consider autonomous vessel as something absolutely new. We consider autonomous vessel as a traditional vessel with some additional systems which transform it in more safer ship, nothing more. So to operate such a vessel, we need just seafarers competent in new systems. So again, how to say, we are not a technology playground now. We passed the stage of pure technical experiments many years ago. Now our task is to bring the new technology to the hands of customer. Again, my strong opinion that any new technology can mature and be developed only in hands of customer. And actually, that's why we created all these legal technical conditions. We made these technologies affordable, not expensive, and applicable even for old ships, not for fancy new build ships. So idea is very simple. We need to bring this technology to the shipping companies, and shipping companies can understand how to work with this, how to utilize this new technology. So it's not something like absolutely new type of vessel. It's not something like something requiring absolutely new regulation, training of systems, and etc. We can accommodate autonomous vessels in the current frame of maritime law, in the current practice of shipping companies.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know, Matthew, are you still with us? It seems I'm losing my presenters all the time. Matthew,
Yes,
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I think you would unmute my.
Okay. Very nice. Now I can see Alexander also. What about what do you think about that also? What I asked to Alexander, what are we training? We are training seafarers. Are we gonna have a bridge somewhere remotely?
I think the role of the profile of the seafarer already changes. Compared, the captains and first engineer I see on board now are very different with the ones I used to see on board 5 years ago. Also, the criticality of the system changes a lot. To give you a very funny example, what classifies as an incident these days is an Adobe license expiring while in port, because they cannot change the forms and everything that need in the port. And that's, just have like 10 of emails when an Adobe license has expired. Whereas in the old days, everybody knew how to bypass with a manual filling of forms. The captains and first engineer these days, they don't know what the manual forms are, but they have forgotten the whole procedure. They only know how to fill in forms to send it to the right place to log on into, especially at ports and, during bunkering and stuff like that. So the profile is fastly changing. And that's, it's a natural course. I mean, the seafarers and the captain, for example, the most critical, captains and first engineer, are becoming more and more, the first engineers these days are becoming, IT savvy a lot. We expect them to carry out tasks that we used to do in the old days, like run the antivirus, do that, share this in the cloud, get this from the cloud, things like that. And the captains, of course, some of the captains I have seen, they could easily work in the IT department. They know lots of things.
That's very
and that's
nice.
what's changing. I mean, you know, just
Hopefully-
knowing the ropes is becoming less important than knowing the procedures and all these things.
Hopefully, Greek captains. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Nikolaos, and I would
Yeah.
add 2 points. First of all, computer system is not a legal subject; it's an object, and there is always responsible person. Even with 100% autonomous vessel, there will be responsible person for its operation. This is the first point. And the second point, I'm a quite old IT guy, and when it comes about people and automation, and there are some